It's a new month, and that means it's time for another new product roundup and giveaway. You probably can't keep up with all the exciting products that come out every month. That's what this video is for. I'm going to run through them. I'm going to tell you my off-the-cuff thoughts about them, or maybe even just tell you that they exist, point at them and go, there they are, and then move on. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give one of them away to a few lucky winners. More about the giveaway at the end of the video. Let's get into the new products. Well, the first product we got to look at this month is the ImmersionRC Ghost. This is a new high-performance long-distance control link being released by ImmersionRC, and the most controversial thing about it is that it uses the 2.4 gigahertz band. 2.4 gigahertz? Shouldn't we be like using 900 megahertz or 400 megahertz for like ultra-long range? Well, if you want to know more about that system, I did an interview with Tony Cake, the owner of ImmersionRC and the creator of Ghost, where he goes through his logic and talks about the project. I'll put a link to that down in the video description. Oh, and by the way, as you go, this is a super long video. Did you notice that down in the timeline, now YouTube is putting little chapter markers? So you can go down in the video description and you can find a list of all of the products in this roundup and links to the products if you choose to go take a look at them or buy one. And you can also just kind of scroll through the timeline and see where all the products are. Thank you, YouTube. That's a really great feature. The next product we're going to take a look at is the WeBleedFPV Whoop House Tiny Whoop Gate Kits from WeBleedFPV. There is a standard version, 2 for $30, so about 15 bucks a piece, and they come with all the standard ways of mounting a tiny whoop gate, including a metal base, a suction cup, a magnet, and so forth. And then there is a light up version, and they're actually available 3-pack LED gates. It's only 20 bucks for a single gate or 60 bucks for 3. I got to tell you, when I first heard about this product, I wanted to support it because this is not a big, this is just a guy with a dream, and apparently his dream is to make tiny whoop gates. Okay, you do you, buddy. But I don't know a lot about, I don't do a lot of tiny whoop racing, and I didn't really feel qualified to say, are these good? Are they a good value? So I asked a few other people I know who are big into the tiny whoop scene, and every single one of them, well, first of all, they had heard of, they were like, oh yeah, those are good. So I was like, okay, let's include them on here. If you're looking for tiny whoop gates, check these out. They seem like a pretty good deal, and you'd be supporting just a guy with a dream. Lumenier has released their ParaGuard safe parallel charging board in both XT30 and XT60, and in a 4-port and a 6-port version of both, depending on how much space you want to devote to it. You probably know that I'm a big fan of parallel charging. I have my own parallel charging board. It's made by ReadyMadeRC, and it's sold a whole bunch of places. Nevertheless, although this is a product that I didn't invent, I can still acknowledge that in some ways, it's better than the product that I did invent. Let's take a closer look. The Lumenier ParaGuard has fuses on it, the same as mine. So you've got automotive fuses here for the XT60 connectors, and you've got poly fuses. They're not visible on the board, but they got poly fuses to protect the balance connector. What Lumenier has done that I didn't do is they have multi-voltage plugs on the board. So mine, you can plug in a 2S, a 3S, a 4S, a 5S, or a 6S, but not combine those on a single board. That means that you have to buy a different board for each of your battery voltages, but we thought of that as a safety feature. The fact that the balance plug doesn't let you plug in the wrong voltage kind of helps prevent beginners from making a common mistake and mixing voltages, which then results in a fire. The Lumenier board lets you do that if you want to, but it does mean that you can buy a single board and charge all of your battery voltages, not at the same time, but you can charge all your battery voltages while buying just a single board. The Lumenier board has only 6 plugs on it. My board has 10, which we're able to do partially because we were able to save space on the board by not having multiple voltages. The Lumenier board also has indicator LEDs when a fuse has tripped, which is a really nice touch, and a buzzer. Nothing can make parallel charging completely idiot-proof and totally safe. Nothing can make LiPo charging completely idiot-proof and totally safe. Nevertheless, this is a pretty good product and definitely worth a look. It's about twice the price of my parallel board. So you got to ask yourself how many of my parallel boards you would have to buy to charge the number of batteries you want to charge versus the Lumenier ParaGuard. Nevertheless, for some people, the Lumenier ParaGuard is going to be the one to get. Damn it. When TBS released the TBS Micro Crossfire V2, a lot of people wondered why they bothered to refresh this product in such an apparently minor way. They changed the way the antenna connects and they added a USB-C plug instead of a micro USB. Who freaking cares? But there's a lot more going on under the scenes here than you might think. The internals have been updated to allow them to increase the output power of this module. It has been in the V1 at 250 milliwatts. TBS has as much as said that they want to get to 1 watt. And that is because of their overall strategy to make Crossfire be at parity with FreeSky R9. They don't want people to say, sure, Crossfire is better, but look how much more expensive it is. And the Crossfire module only goes to 250 milliwatts, whereas FreeSky R9 goes to 1 watt. They are going to get to parity. And that means that they aim to get to 1 watt output power on this micro module, but then what about price? Well, they are bringing the price of the Crossfire system down. This TBS Crossfire Micro TX-V2 starter set comes with the Crossfire Micro module, 3 receivers, and 3 Immortal T antennas. Definitely want to go with those. Those are definitely the way to go with the antennas for $120. And I'm not going to do the math right here for you, but on the TBS Lounge, they ran through the math. The receivers are like $3 more than an R9 receiver. The module is like $10 more. And if they unlock in a future firmware update the ability to go to 1 watt on that micro module, I'm just going to say it. There's just not going to be a strong reason for people to buy FreeSky R9 anymore. I mean, nobody has ever argued that R9 is better than Crossfire. They've said, oh, it's good enough. I've used it. I haven't had any problems with it. And it's so much cheaper. So, way to go, TBS. I don't know who the hell HIFIONRC is, but they are in the Race Day Quad's new product page with a whole bunch of flight controllers, 20x20 flight controllers, an F7-based 30x30, and some ENCs and some stacks, a Whoop flight controller. These Chinese companies just seem to come out of nowhere, or maybe this is a company, I mean, I've never heard of them before. Maybe they broke off from a company you know, I don't know, but here's another vendor, HIFIONRC. They got a video transmitter. I have no idea if this is any good. They could be great. They could be terrible. Only time will tell. If you want to be a guinea pig, go buy one of their gear and then tell me if it blows up on you on day 1. Or if you're just looking to try something new. Is there anything like remarkable? Does anything actually stand out? So this is a DJI-based flight controller. I mean, give me the picture. Oh, the pads on the edge are super tiny. Like, well, DJI is often bought by beginners. This is really, I mean, I'm not thrilled with the size of these pads. Beginners are going to be lifting these pads like crazy. It's got USB-C. That's kind of cool. I don't know. It's a DJI flight controller. Is that a Mac? I think that's a Max chip. That's an OSD chip. So it does have analog. Does it have analog camera input as well? I'm not loving the look of these freaking solder pads. Even I, with someone who is not completely incompetent with soldering, feel like I would struggle with this. $70. I don't know. HIFIONRC, if you want to come out of nowhere and charge $70 for, I mean, you can get established brands in that price range. I feel like you got to either be like really good quality and then build a name for yourself, or you got to bring your price down. I don't know, $70. You could pay 70. You can get a diatone stack for like $50 for the FC and the ESC. It's not an F7, but like, you know what you're getting with that. $70, I don't. Maybe they're great, and in 6 months we'll all be like, ooh, HIFIONRC. This little device is the ViFly ShortSaver, and it is the new replacement for your smoke stopper. I have a whole video up where I talk about why you need a smoke stopper, why this is better than the smoke stopper you're probably already using, and all that. The bottom line is that this little $12 device can save you from frying your quad. It works on 4S up to 6S, down to 2S. It has adjustable current threshold, and it's just a really, really great way to save. The one time you smoke an ESC, I just this week smoked a Crossfire receiver and a Unify video transmitter. and I wouldn't through my own mistake, and I wouldn't have if I had taken 5 seconds to pull this thing out and use it. So check out my review of this product. Thank you, ViFly, for making it. It's pretty cool. In case you don't know, TrueRC is one of 2 major antenna designers and manufacturers for the FPV market, with Video Aerial Systems, VAS, being the other one. TrueRC has released a new line of antennas, the TrueRC OCP line, and on some level I'm feeling like I might have covered this before, but they are showing up new in both Race Day Quads and Get FPV's new products list, so I guess they've released something new. I'm always on the lookout for good budget antennas. You can get a Foxair Lollipop for $8 and it will get you in the air, but you always have to give up a little bit mostly in terms of quality control. There's no reason you can't design one cheap, good antenna, but to roll 2,000 of them off the line and make sure you catch all the defects and the mistakes, that's where the price of the antenna actually comes up. TrueRC has a history of designing good Lumenier ParaGuard antenna. TrueRC designed that, but they also sell antennas with their own names on them, so I don't know. The TrueRC OCP line is a budget, well, maybe not quite budget. They're like 12 or 13 bucks. So they're not as cheap as a Foxair Lollipop, but they're not as expensive as like a Triumph or an Axie. And they come with all the connectors you could possibly want, MMCX, SMA, etc. Same design. Let's just take a look at the specs for this antenna. Radiation efficiency 98%. Cross-polar rejection, that's has to do with rejection of left-hand versus right-hand polarized signals. 1.6 dBi of gain, so it's not the absolute most spherical pattern you could possibly have. Decent SWR. So, you know, TrueRC doesn't make junk. Looks like a decent antenna. Probably want to try it out a little bit, but it does. And the other question is going to be durability. And it looks like they're putting the antenna inside like maybe a sonic welded or something. It looks very similar to the Axie design, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's a medium priced, probably decent performance Omni antenna to put on your quad. If you're looking to try something new, definitely give it a look. This is a weird one. I was going through Get FPV's new product listing and I found a bunch of fashion products from a brand called SayAndrea. And I'm sorry, Andrea, I have no idea who you are. I'm sure you're like, I'm sure I should. I'm sure that reflects more on me than you. But it's like FPV related fashion. So here's a prop and gold graphic tee. Like, what's even going on here? Who is Andrea? Soft mounted beanie. A little Grace guy's lens cleaner, goggle strap. Here's fashion hats. Like, I know some of you guys are super into hats. Oh, dad hat. That's the one for me. So if you're into fashion, there's clearly something going on here. And I really don't know what to say. I'm just weirded out by this whole thing. Who is Andrea and why is she making t-shirts, beanies, and hats for FPV pilots? Well, folks, if I were any good at self-promotion, I would have put this earlier in the video, but I suck at self-promotion. I'm always thinking about what's most interesting to you and not what's most interesting to me or my sponsors. I have released, in partnership with Gemfan, the JB branded Gemfan Hurricane 51477 prop. It is in every way the same as the Gemfan 51477 that you might have already been using. I just went to Gemfan and said, I really like this prop. Will you do a JB? They're adding to their line a purple and a yellow prop that match sort of the colors that I like. It is also still available in all the other colors you might have been using before, and there hasn't been any change to the design. I do think the 51477 pairs really well with my motors, my 2208 and my 2407 motors. Depending on the weight of your quad, you might like the 51499s better if you have a really heavy quad, but it's just going to wreck your battery. I feel like my motors, they're larger stator motors and they're designed to give a little more torque and have great response even with a little heavier prop. So some freestyle pilots would pair like a smaller, like a 2306 motor with a very light, like 5041 prop. But if you're going for the JB 2208 or 2407 motors, you don't want an ultralight prop. You want a heavier prop. And I've really liked the combination of like responsiveness, good handling, not wrecking your battery too much with the 51477. So I've partnered with Gemfan to release this. This doesn't say It doesn't say JB on it, but it is. They've you'll get a little sticker with the JB initials, and you can order it in these purple and yellow colors, which I worked with Gemfan to like make it match my motors. Anyway, Runcam has released an updated version of their Speedybee wireless adapter. In the past, the Speedybee adapter used Bluetooth to connect to your flight controller. Now it uses Wi-Fi, which is going to give it a little more range and a little more link reliability. In addition, Runcam has added the ability to flash firmware wirelessly from your smartphone. And this does work with both Android and iOS smartphones, unlike the older Speedybee adapters, some of which used USB on the go, USB OTG, which iOS doesn't support, or so I hear. I use Android devices. In addition, you can configure ESCs. So you can configure BLHeli S, not BLHeli 32, unfortunately. But if you have BLHeli S ESCs, you can also configure them using the Speedybee app. The big question that some people have asked is, why would I not just use a USB OTG adapter and just plug in directly to the flight controller? Well, that's a good question, and for some people that may work. But if you are interested, I have used this device with the Speedybee app to make configuration changes in my flight controllers in the field, and I dare say you could do an entire setup, including flashing firmware, with this device. It's done everything I wanted to do with a laptop so far, except configure BLHeli 32 ESCs. Well, speaking of Chinese companies that came out of nowhere and are trying to make a splash in the FPV scene, TCMM-RC, who the heck are you? I will say this, you have got some stones on you. Look at this flight controller that they have released, the TCMM-RC Transformers Flight Control Stack. And the idea behind this is that it is a modular flight control stack, so Transformers, but listen, Hasbro is not going to let you get away with this. You are going to get trademark slapped so hard. So buy one of these flight controllers now as a collector's item, because they are not going to exist for very long. Is it a good stack? I don't know. Maybe. Let's look at it and just see if we could, like, here's the flight controller. Let's see here. We got an F7 flight controller. Got a lot of pads here, standard solder pads, a little tight, a little small, but what can you do? You got to fit them in somewhere, and there's a lot of stuff on this board. TX1, RX1, SDA, SCL, so you can have a compass, 4v5. That 4v5 there, instead of 5 volts, that tells you that that's going to be powering the receiver from USB. That's a very nice feature that I do always look for in a flight controller. Two 4v5s. Now, I don't know, maybe the other one, I don't know why you would have two of them, though. UART2, 3.3 volt for Spectrum, another 4v, okay, now I'm confused. All of these are marked 4v5, which suggests they're all powered from USB. Here's a 5 volt. Are they all powered from USB? That could be a problem. You only want your receiver and maybe your GPS powering up from USB, not like your camera or your video transmitter. So UART 4, plenty of UARTs. PC9, that must be for remapping for some other function. 4 motor outputs. There's got to be a plug, right? Oh, TMMRC. You're stacking with a stacking pin header. That's iffy. This is not the kind of pin header where the pins go straight down in and then they inevitably wallow out and stop working. What shock rating is this pin header approved for? Maybe it's a good choice. This is an interesting choice. That's not cheap. That pin header is more expensive than the way they could have done it. That's a bold move. Video transmitter, fine. So, $140. $140 for the stats. One of the most expensive stacks that I can think of. So for a company coming out of nowhere who nobody's heard of and doesn't know if this stuff is going to be quality, it's a bit of a punt to ask that much from people. But I mean, you could buy a really premium stack for that price. Maybe this is a really premium stack. I will say they definitely got my attention with this freaking Transformers logo. Children of the 80s represent. The other TCMM-RC product is this Night Phoenix, and I confess, I actually have one of these. They sent me one of these. They were like, do you want to review this? And I was like, I don't know, because is it any good? And so they just went ahead and sent it. The The motors, maybe it's just because the color of the motors, but they remind me of the motors on the original Wizard, which did not inspire a ton of confidence. The solder joints look pretty nice. Does it have the transformer stack in it? I mean, the stack didn't look bad. What's the flight controller? The motor is a 2306-2450, nothing remarkable. It doesn't scream quality in terms of like, you know, the machining and so forth. It doesn't just scream quality at you. It seems like a budgety motor. Foxeer Aero Micro Pro, that is a very budgety camera. That's a $20 camera. It's a good camera, but it's definitely a budgety camera. You can get them cheaper. I mean, obviously by wholesale they come in way cheaper than 20 bucks. Goes up to 800 milliwatt VTX. That's good. So I guess the big thing, here's the big thing about this quad. It's 268 bucks. GepRC Mark IV is around that price. That is, now that GepRC says that they fixed the problem with the pins between the flight controller and the ESC, that's a known quantity and a pretty good freaking quad. Again, you're competing with known quantities and you're a new player. You got to find a way to differentiate. And one way to differentiate is on price until you establish your reputation. This to me, just having held this in my hand, it doesn't scream, I'm a $300 quad. Like for 300 bucks, you can get a iFlight Sedora with iFlight Zing motors and like all super, super good quality stuff with a well-established reputation. Feels like they're asking a bit much for this, especially like you got Foxeer Aero micro camera. You're clearly coming in at a budget point. And that's without even a receiver. The Rush Tank video transmitters have been my go-to for mid-price, great value video transmitters. They're not the cheapest out there. Probably Panda RC comes to mind as one that is super cheap, but maybe the quality is not quite there. I feel like Rush does a lot of work to get good, consistent output power, good build quality, good performance, and not be as like super ultra premium expensive as some other video transmitters you could get. They have released a new version of their Rush Tank Ultimate, the Rush Tank 2. This is a 30x30 video transmitter, although you can also get it in a standard sort of rectangle form factor if you don't want to mount it on the stack. And it has the same features of the Rush Tank 2, 800 milliwatt output power, smart audio, officially licensed smart audio, licensed through TBS and approved. No cloning going on here. But it adds like a locking connector so the connector doesn't come out, and up to 8S input voltage. So for those of you running 8S quads, you can power it directly off. Well, I mean, even if you're running 6S, it'll give it just a little more headroom from frying. Emax makes some of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite, beginner-friendly, totally ready-to-fly kits. The Emax Tinyhawk Ready to Fly kit has been my go-to when people ask, what should I buy if I'm not really sure if I want to get into FPV and I want to spend the least amount of money possible. It comes in at about 160 bucks. It includes a pretty darn good quad, a decent set of goggles, not great, and an okay controller, but it'll get you in the air. Batteries, charger, everything. Well, now they've released a Ready to Fly kit with their Emax Tinyhawk 2, the new update for the Emax Tinyhawk. This is a more powerful open prop quadcopter, but for somebody who maybe is a little more thinking about flying outdoors compared to flying indoors, or just wants to have a little bit more headroom to do some acro or racing style stuff, this is a really great option. And it comes in at still under 200 bucks. Is this a better option than the Emax Tinyhawk Ready to Fly kit? Just depends on who you are and how much danger versus power you care to get into, but there's just no question that this has got to be one of the most compelling ways to get into FPV. Even if you're sure, like I said, if you're not sure and you want to spend the least amount of money possible, and that's true, but frankly, even if you are sure, the great thing about these kits is that the quadcopter itself, no matter how much you outgrow the controller, and you will outgrow the controller, no matter how much you outgrow the goggles, and you will outgrow the goggles, not as fast as the controller, you'll never outgrow this quadcopter. It'll still be, whether it's the Freestyle or the regional Tinyhawk, it's just a great quadcopter that you're not wasting your money on something you're going to throw out later. Why? Why is there a 5-blade prop? People who fly Tiny Whoops, are these good? Or is this just a novelty joke? Well, Gemfan, thanks. Thanks for making it, I guess. Tell me in the comments if these are good or if this is just a joke. Did we not figure out that like more propeller blades aren't necessarily better back when we had 6-blade quadcopter props for 5 inches? I don't know. Here it is. I don't know why I sound so annoyed that this exists. There you go. On the right here, we have Umagod, Tommy Tibahia's own Umagrip Universal Super Sticky Battery Pad. And for those who say, what is the big deal with this pad? It's just polyurethane. All I can say is he was working on this freaking thing for months, trying out different polymers, different hardnesses, blends, to find like the perfect blend of sticky but not so sticky that it just like rips off when you pull the battery off, and that when it got dusty it would still be grippy enough that you wouldn't eject your battery. I use Umagrip on basically all of my quads, and it is like, how much difference could there be in a battery gel pad? It's just a gel pad, but some of them get dusty and then they get slippery and they don't stick anymore, and some of them are so sticky that like you just rip the sticker off your battery. I don't know. He even claims that like the Umagrip, the Umagod logo molded into the Umagrip helps sort of reduce the stickiness just a little. So that is what I think is clearly the best battery pad. Although, how much do you want to pay for like a super good battery pad? Maybe just use something else. Well, if you're interested in paying the least amount possible, here is some sticky polyurethane LiPo battery pad. It's got the 3M logo on the back. It's clearly somebody is just trying to give a cheaper version of Umagrip. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's not cheaper. It's the same price. But no, the Umagrip is just 1 sheet for $5. This stuff is $6 for 2 sheets, so it's a little cheaper. I haven't tested it. I don't know if it's an exact rip of Umagrip or if it is different in some way. I kind of feel bad because like Tommy put a lot of, I just know that he put so much work into that thing, and I like his little logo. But if you're looking for a cheaper battery pad, maybe this is it. And I'm willing to bet it's pretty similar to Umagrip in a lot of ways. Or maybe it's not. Finally, let's wrap up this roundup with the Camera Butter Black Diamond Universal ND Filter. You may have heard of Camera Butter before. They make stick-on ND filters that literally, they have a little like sticky gasket that goes around the edge of the lens, and it sticks onto the front of your GoPro. And the advantage of this is that you don't need any specially designed holder to hold it on. The disadvantage is that every time you want to take it off and put it back on again, you have to redo the gasket. It's kind of a pain in the butt. If you have a GoPro Hero 7 with the removable lens cover, then it's not so bad. But if you have a Hero 8, now there's no way to remove it without redoing that gasket. Well, the Camera Butter Black Diamond is made for any GoPro holder that fits the popular TBS Jello Guard. TBS Jello Guard are glass filters that are held in front of the camera by the GoPro holder. They just slot in somehow. And this is just a piece of glass in the same size. But the difference between the Camera Butter and the TBS Jello Guard is that the Camera Butter are Gorilla Glass. So they're going to be the toughest glass that I mean, there's different grades of Gorilla Glass. Not all Gorilla Glass is the same, but all Gorilla Glass is tougher than just regular old glass. And that's kind of the point of these. So that brings us to the end of the video and the part that you've probably been waiting for the most, the giveaway. And I think what I want to give away this week, I want to throw a bone to the guy with a dream whose dream is to make whoop racing gates. Let's give away some of the WeBleedFPV Whoop House Gate Kit. Just to be clear, I'm buying these. I buy these and I give them away to you just because I like seeing people. I watch Mr. Beast on YouTube, and he's super successful. And one of the things that makes him successful is he's always giving things away. Now, I can't afford to give away things as expensive as Mr. Beast, but I want to be as popular as Mr. Beast on YouTube and have lots of subscribers and be really, so I'm giving away things. And we're going to give away, let's see what we're going to give away. Let's look at this shop. So let's give away the drone racing gates, obviously, and obviously you're going to want the LED light up ones, right? Clearly. So a kit of 3 gates is $60. So, but you can't make a race course with 3 gates. So let's give away 6 gates, a 2-fur kit. And that's going to be $60 to $120 per. Let's give away 4 of those. To 4 winners, let's give away 6 of these LED light up whoop racing gates from WeBleedFPV. Instructions on how to enter the giveaway are down in the video description. There is a link to a Google form. You need to click on that link and you need to go enter your information in that form. Full terms and conditions are down in the video description. I'm going to ask you for your email address when you enter, and I'm going to use that email address to notify if you've won. I will draw the winners in about 3 or 4 days is usually how long it takes me to draw the winners, because I want to give people time to see the video and enter. Don't email me asking to be added. Don't message me on Facebook asking to be added to the giveaway. Go down to the video description and click the link in the video description telling you how to enter the giveaway. That's how to do it. I will also post a video here announcing the winners just so everybody knows. I mean, the winners are going to get notified by email. So I guess if you have to wait to see the video here, that'll mean you didn't win. But hey, thank you guys so much for watching. Happy flying, everybody. What are you still doing here? The video's over. Do you watch all the videos all the way to the end? Wow. You are a super fan. Thank you. That actually helps the channel a lot when you watch the videos all the way to the end. YouTube loves that. You know what else YouTube loves? When you subscribe. Or when you join my Patreon for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned. Actually, YouTube doesn't like you to join my Patreon. They don't get a cut of that.